What is going on, guys? I have a crazy race for you guys today. This is probably the most intense race I've ever been in, and it is with the new GT2 series that was just added with update 10. We're also going to be using the new radar feature, as you can see on the screen there. We are at Sebring International, and we are in the Ferrari as we dive into turn 1 here. We lock up the front tires just a little bit, and we do that because Kilroy here told me that turning off ABS makes it way easier to trail brake into corners. So shout out to him for commenting and letting me know that. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all of you guys that are subscribed as well, and all of the knowledge that you guys have been giving me via the comments. I really appreciate it. And if you find yourself not subscribed and you find my content interesting, please subscribe, as I could use as much as your guys' knowledge as possible. So thank you guys. Let's jump back into the race. So recovering out of turn 1 there after locking the fronts up just a tiny bit, we end up conceding the position to It's On Repeat as we fall back into 3rd place. As we turn into turn 2 here, we get a little bit of snap oversteer, and it unsettles the car, and we lose all of our momentum as we kind of pull back in front of Johnny there. A little bit of a bump from behind, which is all right. I mean, it's tight right there. There's nothing he could have done. So we're coming out of Gurney Bend and heading into the hairpin here. We're going to try and focus on that trail braking that I mentioned before as we lock up the tires just a tiny bit there as we get near like 85% brake pressure. I think I trail brake there pretty well as we come through the chicane and into Cunningham Corner just ahead. As we're heading down into Cunningham Corner, I'm going to swap camera views here. Let me know what you guys think about this. In the bottom right, I highlighted the throttle and brake inputs, and in the bottom left you have the leaderboards with the gaps ahead and behind, and in the top right you have the track map. I'm not going to keep this view the entire time. We're going to kind of swap back and forth, but I feel like it would be a little bit better just to kind of have a third-person perspective of the race as it develops. So Nathan ahead by 3/4 of a second as we are on the hard tires and pushing rather hard, trying to increase the gap behind to Juan. As we dive into the Le Mans curve, we're going to tuck in behind Nathan, who is only half a second ahead as we head down the Oman Straight. Going to be struggling into the Sunset Bend. I will say, this corner I cannot get right. I don't know if it was just the tune that I had on the Ferrari and the bouncing and the unsteadiness of the road surface, causing the car to understeer, oversteer. It just felt like I was controlling the car and the driver that was driving the car was drunk. But it only felt like that through Sunset Bend. So let me know again. I'm bad at tuning. I'm terrible at tuning. So if there's something I'm doing wrong and you notice, please let me know. As Nathan in the Porsche just sends it straight into turn 1, straight into the wall. So not too much of a concern there. As we jump ahead, I'm going to point out that I am not trail braking at all into this corner. If you pay attention to the braking inputs there, I am not trail braking at all into the corner. So I just wanted to point that out, how much distance I could have been braking into and how much later I could be braking. So not very good by my part. As we are behind Juan again, highlighting those braking points and the trail braking and the throttle inputs there. As we swap views again, as we have a really good battle with Juan. Me and Juan are going to be literally neck and neck for the entirety of this race. Our pit stop strategies don't match up, but we do end up coming out at the same time at the end of the race and throughout the race. So stay tuned for that, as this race is solely with him in this Dodge Viper that he has. So as we are coming through Bishop Bend, just trying to maintain that distance in front of him, as I want to get a good draft going down the Oman Straight here. So now as this race is developing, we're starting to think about strategy. I was trying to do a one-stopper, do hard to hard, and I'm questioning what Juan was on, but my question is answered when we jump ahead to lap 4 here, and you can see Juan going into the pits, which probably means he was either on mediums or softs. I highly doubt he was on the softs though, because the softs would have fallen off by that point. So he was definitely on the mediums, which is good for us because that means we were keeping up with him on the hards while he was on the mediums. So he did put about a 3-second gap on us. So let's hope that we can push as hard as we can here and try and minimize that gap, because in a couple laps we're going to have to pit ourselves. And that means we're either going to come out in front of him or behind him when we pit. And we're also going to be pitting back onto the hards. So we're going to push really hard through here and try and focus on all of those braking points that I've been talking about in the trail braking, and just trying to be smooth and minimize the tire wear. As we do a slight lockup there going into the hairpin. It is what it is. I mean, I'm pushing, and I'm pushing hard for a reason, because I want to be ahead of Juan when we come out of the pits. So let's jump ahead and see where we end up. So lap 6 here, as you can see in the bottom right, our tires are worn. They are getting to be shot. I don't want to do another lap here because they are approaching the moderate wear zone. So once they hit moderate wear, your tires really just fall off. As they hit it perfectly as I drive into the pits. So that was perfectly timed by us. We're going to jump back onto the hards. We're going to skip the fueling as we fueled the car up at the beginning of the race. And let's jump ahead and see where we come out of the pits. So coming out of the pits here, as you can see, Juan is in front of us by about 2.5 seconds. So even though he pitted earlier than us to try and undercut us while he was on the mediums, we still closed about a second of a gap on him, because as you remember, when he entered the pits earlier, he was ahead about 3.4 seconds. So now we're on fresh hard tires. We can push a little bit harder than we were before while he was behind, and we'll see how this develops. I don't want to push too hard though, because again, I don't want to wear these tires out. It is lap 7. We're halfway through the race. We did 7 laps on the old tires. As we jump ahead 2 laps here, and we're on lap 9 now, and Juan is right in front of us. So what I'm thinking is we close that 2.5 second gap on him in 2 laps. So this probably means that he is also on the hard tires, and his tires are going to be about 2 laps older than ours. So his tires are going to be screaming. They're going to be hurting. And as we get into a battle with him, I'm trying to put pressure on him and force him into a mistake. I'm not necessarily trying to go for a move, just really trying to force him into a mistake, have him eat up those hard tires. That way maybe he has to pit a lap earlier. So that's kind of my idea here. So as we're maneuvering through, we're going to be entering the Le Mans curve, and I'm trying to get a good run out of Le Mans curve, because I want to be right behind him as we come down the straight, and we do get a good run here. So we're going to get a good amount of draft as we swap camera views. You guys can see my braking as we come in to my least favorite corner. Take the move on the inside, and he holds his line as we understeer just a little bit of a touch there. I think I do get a penalty for this. I get about 0.3 of a second penalty for the off track there, which is fine. I did deserve that. I pushed it too hard going into there, and the car understeered, so that's all on me. But it's just good hard racing. Me and Juan are having a really good hard race right now, and I'm just loving this race. I'm loving this series. I'm loving all the updates that Forza is doing. Update 10 is really not a huge update, but it is one of quality of life, I would say. Just having the radar alone is huge, because there's a lot of guys that drive steering wheel and pedals, and they do hood view, they do cockpit view, and not being able to see around you is definitely a problem. So huge improvement by Forza for that. And we're going to be diving in on the brakes here, still hanging behind Juan. So he is on those tires, and we are pushing him. And honestly, I could be going faster. I'm not going to lie. I could have pushed for an overtake, but I'm really trying to force him into a mistake here. If we come out neck and neck, if I pit like right now, pitting a little bit too early. But I have another 2 laps worth of tire out of these hards. So what I think my strategy is going to change to now is going to be going to lap 12 and putting softs on, because Juan here is going to have to pit, and I think he's going to pit this lap, and I think he's going to put another set of mediums on. So he's going for a medium, hard, medium, whereas I'm going for a hard, hard, soft. So we'll see what happens when we come out of the pits. But for right now, we're trying to still force him into a mistake as we hit the Le Mans curve and hit the straightaway again. We make the move We get it done as we try and give it a little too much gas coming out of there, as I just want to get ahead. I want to get ahead of him now, and I think he's going to pit this time. I think he's going to pit this time around because we have the advantage. We are in front of him now. So we're going to try and nail this corner yet again. As you can see him trying to make a move around the outside on the radar. So let's pay attention and see what he does here, if he does take a pit stop or not. And he does. So he is definitely going to be back on a set of the mediums, which means we have to push like crazy, because not only are we going to pit 2 laps from now, but that means he has 2 laps on the mediums where we have 2 laps on the hards. So it's kind of like a weird time differential that we have to nail. And I want to be at least coming ahead of him out of the pits. So we are on lap 12 now. We jumped ahead about 2 laps. We're going to be pitting here as our hard tires are worn. Now we have about a 28-second lead ahead of Juan. We're going to throw those soft tires on. We don't need fuel yet again. And this was the longest pit stop of my life. I was sitting here going down the pit lane, and I'm like, why is this pit lane so long? As I could just feel Juan coming up behind me, and eventually I do see him come around the final corner and onto the straight, and we have to goose it out of the pit lane, and I am full-blown attack mode as I am just wasting so much time coming out of the pit lane. I just want to go, and I just cook the tires coming out of the pits, and I am about a second behind Juan here. So he is on 2 lap-old mediums. We are on fresh soft, so this is the ideal situation for us. I would have hoped we could have been coming out of the pits in front of him, but we couldn't close the gap on those hard tires earlier, so it is what it is. But we have the advantage here on the tires. So unfortunately, the replay for Forza, the third-person view, stopped working after like 24 minutes or something. So we're only going to be on what I'm seeing for the rest of the race. But it is a good thing, because this race gets crazy as I am pushing so hard, trying to get used to having the soft tires. Mind you, I literally just did 12 laps on just hard tires. So doing these last 2 laps on the softs is going to be crazy. We're just trying to find those braking points now, as they are way shorter than they were on the hards, and just trying to feel the car out now that it's on the softs, as we can do a tiny bit of a lockup there, but that really isn't that bad. Get a good run out of there, and we're really just trying to close this gap on to Juan as we go through Bishop Bend here. I'm just flat out eating the curbs up, braking as late as I feel like the car will allow, as we brake way too early there. But I feel like lap 14 for us is going to be way better, as this is almost more of like a feeler lap, trying to get used to having the soft tires from the hards. So he is maintaining that gap as he does a defensive maneuver, trying to zigzag, but we're too far back for the draft here. So I mean, it is what it is. I'd rather let him play defensive and let us catch up, as we finally nailed the Sunset Bend here, the final corner, and I gain about a 10th, and that's it. Literally about a 10th. So for me to go through Sunset Bend, that felt pretty good. We were on the soft tires, but Juan in front of us is still holding that gap. So we have to close about a 1.5-second gap on him in the final lap, because mind you, we have a 1/10 of a second more of a penalty than he does. So I mean, I really got to nail this final lap. This has to be a quality lap for us. As we maneuver through Gurney Bend here, I am trying to close this gap, and I know that I'm going to be way better on braking, as I got a little bit of an oversteer there as we're just banging on the throttle out of Gurney Bend and into this hairpin. We are going to maximize our braking into the hairpin and try and close this gap on Juan, as I know he's going defensive. He swings really wide there, loses about 1/2 second of that gap in front of us, and we're going to tuck in behind his draft as we go through the chicane and into Cunningham Corner. Late dive on the brakes by us, big lockup, driving deep into the corner, definitely hurting our gap to him. As we are going through the Flying Fortress straight into Bishop Bend, I'm seeing stars, man. I'm so locked in, it's not even funny. If I could explain to you how like intense this actually was doing this race for this long. 14 lap where your times are about 2 minutes a lap. So this is a long race. This is a 28-minute long race, if not more, 28.5-minute long race. And it all comes down to this. As we go through Le Mans curve, I get a beautiful run out of there. We're tucking in behind him, getting that draft as we're going to make a dive for the inside. But Juan here blocks it off. I don't care. I am forcing my way in. And I don't care if I'm pulling a Max Verstappen, Lando Norris as we come into the final corner, as he tries to pinch us off into Sunset Bend, and he does not pinch us off successfully. We end up pulling ahead. He tries for the crossover here, but we have the grip on the soft tires, and now I'm just concerned about getting that 1/10 of a second gap in between as we cross the line with a 3/10 of a second gap, and we secure second place. Oh my God, was that an insane race? Oh man, I need to like come down from this high right now. That was insane. He was doing so much better lap times than me, but because of our pit strategy at the end, we ended up coming up with second place, as it's on repeat and that Porsche was gone, man. That guy was almost a minute faster than me and Juan combined, as we are going to message Juan and let him know what a hell of a race that was. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, if you like this style of video, please let me know, and I will see you guys in the next one.